question isn't whether to adapt, it's how. Welcome to AI Builds America, where we sit down with the leaders, innovators, and everyday professionals reshaping recruiting, workforce development, and career growth for an AI-enabled future. I'm Candace Washburn, along with Melissa Salazar. Let's build. Thank you all for being here today. We are going to be discussing, internal mobility with AI. So breaking down those silos and kind of exploring how AI companies can unlock their existing talent instead of always hiring externally. Some of the things that I think, Norman and Melissa are going to be really adept at talking with is just like skills mapping and matching how AI analyzes employee profiles, perhaps project history, kind of skills data there needs to be to suggest lateral moves, stretch assignments, internal opportunities that employees, might not have considered. I think one of the things to talk about is career pathing as well. So like how are the AI systems creating personalized development roadmaps and employees, skills, interests, and potential future roles within the company. So today we have Norman Law, who is a product leader and has been on a 17-year mission to build experiences that people actually want to use. He has led high-impact work at companies like Microsoft, Expedia, Uber, Netflix, just to name a few. And his most recent roles have been focused on the employee experience. So he is based in the Pacific Northwest, and Norman is an avid New York sports fan, and he spends his days balancing product strategy while corralling 3 kids alongside his amazingly supportive and rock star wife.
Descriptive as possible with everything I do.
Norman, I'm so excited you're here. Can't wait to dive into this topic. I feel like you're going to be able to bring some really great insights to our guests, and also like real world experiences.
Melissa, before we get started, I have to ask you, I saw a LinkedIn post that you made, and it was about a seminar that you recently joined or were in. And can you talk a little bit about, like, it was the AI and like policymakers and, what was that discussion like today? I'm so interested to learn more.
I joined it was a vendor management tool that we use in the industry, in the contingent talent industry. So obviously the coolest thing ever, going to these conferences and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what are we going to learn about? And actually it was really great because we dove in a lot on AI, not just like how to use it from a tooling perspective and how to scale your team, but also like who owns the governance, like creating that governance. And then from a contract level, who's responsible for when you bring in engineers from contingent labor perspective, who owns like negotiating the credits that they get, observing how many credits they're using. If they go over, like, does the agency pay for that? Does the vendor pay for that? Do you penalize the person? Like, who manages that? It was a really intense conversation because from my perspective, I was like, in contingent, I'm not going to own that. I think it should be the hiring manager if it's a temp worker, however we manage it on the FTE side. But from a contractual standpoint, I'm like, that to me would be procurement, somebody negotiating that contract and putting those SLAs in there. But curious, Norman, I feel like you probably have run into something.
It's always tough because I think it's one of those things where it actually leads to some really interesting questions. The things I've found out in HR, right? There's just silos everywhere. And this is which leads to a lot of really hard conversations because technically speaking, this is a worker coming on. So you'd want the governance to be across and kind of, I would say, the similar across the company. So like you would sit there and be like, oh, I have a template, I can go use that. Or I know exactly what it's going to do.
Yeah.
We have those credits defined. We can just pull it up. Procurement might have the information, just pull it up and send it out in its way. But it shouldn't be something that's on the hiring manager to figure that out, right? Because it's so hard as a hiring manager. I'm so busy doing my job and figuring things out. I don't know what the answers to some of these things are. And it's going to take me more time to figure that out versus having a centralized view that people understand what it is and push it forward. So for me, governance is really, it has to be a kind of a cross silo discussion. So that as a company, you know what the governance is versus by team. Because if you do it by team, you're just having so many different conversations. And then, it's something like what my grandfather used to say. It's like a duck and a chicken talking to each other. Like they just don't make any sense half the time. And you end up ending up having a conversation where it's going to be conflicting or lead to just random conversations because you don't know what you're trying to get to when you actually have something cross together between the two teams.
feel like there would be a lot of guardrails and a lot of like goalposts, moving goalposts, if you were to, I guess, separate
Mhm.
it per team versus having something that's inclusive. It's really interesting though, and it brings up a point for like all companies in general, right, Melissa? I mean,
Mhm.
who was the first to write it, and then following it from there, like how
Yeah.
does it evolve?
Mhm.
And
Uh,
literally every company is mapped differently. So while like
Mhm.
at Netflix they had an effectiveness team, right? That could kind of set those standards across talent, right? But that doesn't mean that that's impacting engineering, right? And so they have a VMO. Do they
Yeah.
have a vendor management office where they can centralize some of this? And I would think a lot of companies don't have that yet, or if they do, it's still pretty decentralized. So how are like who in the company is owning this, and then ensuring that all the other teams are up to speed on it, because I think when people think of AI credits, they're thinking of engineers, but like literally think about fintech or talent tech. Like there's all
Mhm.
these engineering teams that sit in the other departments as well versus just the external facing engineering team on
Mhm.
product. So yeah, a lot to think about, I feel
Yeah.
like. And I'm curious, like Candace, your experience
Yeah.
going from a big tech to
Uh-huh.
a smaller
To
company, like
little tiny, not so much tech.
yeah. Could you
We're working
imagine?
now.
So it would probably be you, right? Like you would be setting
Listen,
these standards. Yeah.
listen, let me tell you something. We had a call with Acumatica today, which is a system that I am completely like I'm not familiar with it. I'm in wholesale distribution now, Lorman. It's like I don't know,
Mhm.
similar to Amazon in that it's distribution, but it's very kind of the middleman, if you will, right? So it's a similar concept, just different process, different tools, so on and so forth. But I will say I'm so
Mhm.
used to having the automation with Amazon. And so today we had a discussion with a third party vendor from Acumatica, which is like an ERP system. And it's a world of difference between like there's Acumatica AI, which is a tool that we can use to kind of have like the funnel optimization, the go-to market strategy, giving me different types of I guess areas in the funnel that we can utilize, like in terms of reorders, or what was the biggest customer that we've had, or the biggest sale that we've made in the past 3 months. How can we capitalize on that? So it's a CRM integration, and it's something that hasn't been used up to this point. But I'm just so like I'm very used to it coming from big tech.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how my manager always calls it archaic, but if it worked, it worked.
Mhm.
But like I feel like we're going to be able to grow so much more having this sort of optimization and being able to utilize these strategies. I mean, something as small as a dashboard may not seem like a big deal to people, but it's something that's super useful.
At the end of the day, it's all about data, right? And about the ability to use the
Yep.
information that you have and use it for something that's actually more than just what it
Yeah.
initially was set up for. So, transitioning to the internal mobility piece,
Right.
think about it this way. Like, this was when I was at Uber and I was really looking at HR for the first time with open eyes, I mean, like, this is a crazy place because every organization was an island.
Mm.
So if we the visualization I came up with was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
what you
It's
have is
true.
you have every organization as an island. So you have talent acquisition as its own island. It's a big island, but it's an island. And then you have, operations, and you have
Right.
employee relations, and you have, compensation. You have all these teams as their own separate islands. And they have ferries
Yeah.
that just go from that island to the main company and back,
Hmm.
but they don't go across each other. So what happens is like talent acquisition is doing
Right.
something that maybe internal mobility is looking at, but they don't even talk to each other. And so what you end up doing is you end up having two parallel systems get built up
Right.
along the way that basically do the same thing. And then so when you were looking at that, you were
Right.
saying, like, why are we
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over again?
Mhm.
And shouldn't you be talking to these people? And it just ended up like spiraling into something of
Yeah.
like, yeah, we don't do that. That's their job. This is
Yeah.
our job, and this is what we're gonna go do. And
Hmm.
it's been an interesting kind of change with AI
Hmm.
because AI is
Right.
going to break down those barriers. It's really going to help us move forward and say, like,
Yeah.
well, I can start looking across things
Yeah.
as opposed to looking only at my area, which is nice. It
Wait,
Right.
was
I have to dive in there. So did you
Mhm.
fix
we
that there?
started like it was just
Were you
it was
able to
like
get them to
it
talk?
started down the path, but this was
Yeah.
when I was there. It was when AI just started kicking off, like when Gen AI and everything started really getting into it. Like at that time, we were talking
Yeah.
about doing super complex things like we have to build our own data lake where everything has to come into it. And then from there, we'll then just build huge analytics things to be able to pull everything out. And like we wanted to, the idea was to say, we wanted the entire funnel from recruiting all the way to when they leave the company. Like we wanted to be able to track an employee all the way through that. Like that was the goal. And we were going to go build that. But then you looked at that and you're
Yeah.
like, this is a super expensive project to actually go do that. Like to imagine to have to repipe all of the integrations and all the data, which are in their own little areas, put into a database, have that or data lake is what they'll call it. They'll call it data lake. Have that data lake be able to understand that like this might be called X, but it's going to be called A here. Translate all that, and then be able to put all the patterns together and then say this is what needs to happen. Like this was in the world of pre-Gen AI, pre-LLM.
Sure.
Today,
Oh, I was
exactly.
like, it seems like there's a
about
bot that could do that
previously,
today. I feel
couldn't
like
do it. Like it was really one of those things you had to pay like data analysts, you have to pay like all these people just to really throw it out there. Where we're at today is an
Oh,
amazing
man.
time because you can actually
Right.
do that.
Tiger team.
The problem I've seen so far has been like the pain point I run into is more
Yeah.
most HR people I've spoken with don't understand that. They just still want to stay within their silo and they don't want to go out and be like, actually, how does this person leaving in less than 12 months impact the way we should hire? No one ever asked that question. Like it's crazy. Like you sit there and go, like, shouldn't you care about that? Because it really will help make you better. But it's not even a question that they ask. Instead, they just say, well, how do I hire more people
Mhm.
faster? Is their first question because that's what they're incentivized for. So there's a lot of interesting things going on and how it's going to evolve and change.
Yeah. It's always top of the funnel they focus on.
Problem you're looking to solve? What's the outcome you're looking to drive? Like those are the questions that we always ask. And that was the thing that was always fascinating because
Yep.
it's sometimes it's pulling teeth. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I get it. You want to hire more people, but at the end of the day, what do you care about hiring more people? Or do you actually care about hiring people that have an impact? If you're going to talk about people having an impact, then you have to ask the hard question: how you define impact? And so, like, it spirals and gets into the snowball of like, okay, this is a really hard
Right.
question that we should not have answers to immediately. But people like to shy away from hard conversations sometimes, and so it leads to like, oh,
Yeah.
just avoidance. So like, we'll deal with that later.
But do you feel like
Mhm.
sometimes like HR, I mean, because they're trying to translate what the hiring leaders need, like VPs need, like so is it that it's more I think in my perspective, they're focusing on like the top of the funnel because that's where they drive that conversation with the business, where the business is really like the leaders are really the ones deciding where the work's going and how it's ebbing and flowing. But sometimes they're just so far
It's
behind.
interesting because this is where it's like when I would hire people working with HR, I would always hope that I had a person that could understand my needs and really help be a partner along the way versus be a service. Like this is where I think in large companies it's kind of changed a little bit. Like even at Netflix, I feel like it was a little bit better where the talent acquisition folks really did do a lot of sourcing and finding stuff. But most of the other places I've been, it's basically hey, hiring
Yeah.
manager, go to this portal, look at all these resumes, and you tell me which ones you want to go talk to, and the recruiter will go reach out, right? Like it was the recruiters were always overworked. They had too many people to look at. They had too many things to figure out. And what'd be really difficult was to figure out, okay, well then as a hiring manager, how can I help get my needs across when they had no time because they're so busy with like 7 different or like probably 8 or 9 different recs they're working against and they were being pressured on time and everything else. And so it led to, okay, well, I have to do it all myself as a hiring manager. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. But I think it's got to be a partnership and combination because it's about finding the right candidates. It's about narrowing down those candidates that will be the right fit for your team and the company. And then it's also then about how do you close the candidate when you get to the point of ready to offer or if anything, not break the relationship. Because a lot of times when recruiters just stop talking to you, you go, wait, like you regardless you look at it, if you're a
Yeah.
consumer company, I'm a customer of your company, and if you stop talking to me after we just went through a couple of conversations, that's not really cool because then it makes me think poorly of your company as an example. So there's always those things you gotta watch out for as recruiting becomes more and more relational than anything else.
I always appreciated that at Netflix that like
Mhm.
everything we did was like on brand. Like you're putting a slide together on brand, talking about contingent workers and their experience on brand. Like everything needed to be on brand. So because again, everybody was our customers, right? So I love taking that tidbit into everything I do now. It's like how do you think about that experience end to end? And I
Yeah.
feel like it ties so much into, mobility because like we're talking about replacing people, but what about moving people around and looking at these, instead of doing these massive layoffs, but looking at these talent pools going, how do we identify patterns of success within the company so we can shift people and move that faster versus laying them off and then hiring the same exact candidate 5 minutes later to go do a different job.
It's fascinating because it's one of those things where that was actually the biggest surprise that I found with HR, which was I thought that they would know everything about me after I joined the company. And as I've grown, as you spend more time, you have a profile, people kind of understand how you work. You thought that would exist somewhere. Somewhere you would have it based on like, oh, okay, like I know a lot about this person. I know their previous jobs. I know what they're currently doing. And I know based on what they've done and feedback or whatever else, I can get the skills. I know what kind of skills they have. We can figure those things out to be able to understand how I can match you to better things. But every company I've been a part of has been like, no, employee, if you really care about that stuff, you put your stuff in and then you tell us all this stuff. And then it's like recreating your resume internally when they already have your resume on file. They already have the feedback from your interview. They already have the feedback from your performance reviews or even from like feedback from your peers. But none of that is connected. It's all just basically, okay, well, that's in this system. This is this other system. And then now, oh, you want to know about internal mobility? Here, fill out all this stuff again. And you tell us all this stuff. And then we'll
Right.
Exactly.
It's like, just connect to my LinkedIn. Okay. Just like, let me auto-populate that. Like those, like every time, every application.
Yeah. It's like, why do I have to repeat it? And internally it's even worse because it's like, you went through the process. So they purely said, you are fit for our company and you're fit for our role. They are not even sitting there asking that question about, okay, well, is it a continued fit? Is it something that maybe you change? Do we need to find new roles like for you? Because it's like you've outgrown your role. Like there's all this really fascinating stuff we just don't do with this information, which is really intense. Like it's kind of a weird thing, right? Like I always have a hard time just like sitting there going, really? You can't do this? Like you can't figure this out?
Yeah. We used to have these achievements internally, right? So you'd have these little like phone tool badges, everything that you did that was remarkable, and it would be on your profile. I almost wonder if and it was a badge of honor to collect these over the years, right? So people would have like hundreds of them and it'd be one of their claim to fames. I almost wonder with AI if you could like take, your highest achievements or accomplishments as a hiring manager and say, okay, filter through everybody that has this top 5, and then it would pull candidates that might be a good fit for your opportunity,
Chief People Officer Nikki Krishnamurti, she was really she really got in my head. Like she was really talking about this. Like, think about this: is most people don't want to go lay off. Like laying off people is difficult and it's expensive and it has a major impact on the company. But leaders at companies can't answer the basic question about, hey, we have a new initiative. We need these skills. Who can we pull from around the company to go work on this new thing? Most companies can't answer that question. They can't sit there and go like, hey, you need entrepreneurial spirit. You need someone who is like super deep in technical expertise in architecture. You need someone who is great at sales, right? Or has had background in sales. They can't answer that question, which then means they sit there and go, well, I'll just go hire someone from outside because it's easier for me to tell you what I want versus having to talk to every manager, talk to every person in the company to understand what their skill sets are and what they can bring. And that comes with all this bias because it's like, managers will say things that might be, things that they have for the person on their team, which might be true or not true. And so that leads down this path of like, okay, there is no source of truth internally for me to easily pull this information, even though I know everything about them. I know, and this is where it gets creepy because it's like, I know what work they've submitted. I know what they do, where they are located. I know who they worked with, like all this stuff that we know that you can sit there and say is that signals we can use to help really understand kind of the full picture of a person, but it's something that we don't do. And maybe, to Melissa, what you were saying about regulation and stuff, like that might be because it's creepy and we can't do it, but it is a really fascinating question about, is there something there that you can do to get down that?
Yeah. And how do you identify patterns? I think, okay, coming from the contingent talent side, right? So I would talk to TA, I would talk to hiring leaders all the time, and they'd be like, we need to hire for this. And I'd be like, you literally have contractors doing this. Why don't you just pull from look at your contractors? Or we would say, hey, we're not sure how to do this work. And it's like, well, just use a vendor for a little bit, outsource it, see how it goes, and then pull it in internal, hire your own people. I always thought that was interesting. Like, how do we share that information faster? And to your point, like just filling out a bunch of information about yourself that's already on your LinkedIn profile and in your resume. It's like, obviously that doesn't help us match people faster. And I think the other thing is because job descriptions were written like when we were still chiseling in stone. And so like no one actually reads job descriptions. I don't know how many times you ever read a job description, went to work, and then actually did everything in that job. You were like, this needed to be 11 pages if it was actually what I do. So I'm curious, like, is there something out there, or what's the solve? Like, how do we, what could people take back to their job today and be like, this is something we could start doing?
Yeah. I mean, starting point is just basically like a lot of what I see has been more so start with the curiosity. Start asking those questions about like, well, what information do we have about people internally and internally that's different than externally that we can use and have those conversations, right? Like, it's really straightforward where you should be able to identify, and managers do this all the time, like identify their top performers and understand what those are, understand people, and see if you can identify the right size of skills. And that might just be, it's actually something really not quite AI, so this might not be part of the conversation, but it is really fascinating because one of the things we talked about, like at Uber, which was real part of our conversation points, was like, well, what'd be really interesting is if you actually asked your manager, yourself, and then a bunch of peers, your skill sets and what you're good at, and it's like you could do like a 1 through 5 scale, like be like, well, you're really bad at it, you're average, or you're great at it. Like, it should be really simple, like a 3-point scale, right? Like even a thumbs up, thumbs down. And you can sit there and you can actually have a triangulation between what you think your skills are, what your manager thinks your skills are, and what your peers think your skills are, which then allows you to have data. Because the biggest thing about this and being able to use AI to match is you have data now. Now you have the data to then say, we need someone who's entrepreneurial. Well, all these skills that we've seen from this person because of the way their peers have rated them, the way the managers rated them, shows that they actually have really strong entrepreneurial spirit. So maybe we should bring them onto this organization, or this is perfect for this role. Let's reach out internally to talk to them about this role, as opposed to like, oh, they have to apply explicitly for this role. Because I think that's the other thing as well, is we just assume that people won't have to apply explicitly, versus actually it's really nice to be able to go internally. You're a great match internally for this role. I'd love to be able to talk to you and see if you're willing to at least talk to this team to see if you want to move, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to expect to stay in your role forever. And so it's almost nice to have internally your company recognizing that you have an option to move somewhere else, somewhere better, or somewhere different, right? Because it could be something that's better for your skills. And I think that's where it is, really just starting to ask that
Yeah.
question about, well, how do we figure out what we know about the people we have? And then how do we then start internally reaching out, as opposed to waiting for them to apply or doing other things to get them to apply?
It's kind of like, Candace, I like how you were talking about at Amazon, you collected like badges, you said?
Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me of Girl Scouts.
Little achievements.
But I like that. And then like think about Netflix, the 360 feedback. Like, I wonder if there's a way to like maybe use some of that, not in a negative way, but like highlighting someone's skill set, like using, because like Netflix implemented a GPT to help with like synthesizing your 360 feedback, and maybe it could like come up with those strengths, and those strengths could feed to your profile, and then that's what gets populated when somebody keys in a project. I don't know, what do you think, Candace?
Now, what I've seen are suggestions, right? So AI suggestions of, jobs that'll be a good fit based on your skill set internally. The issue is the hiring managers get inundated with all of these candidates. So then I guess that's such a bottleneck, because it's like, how do you make it, and automation AI might not even be the answer, but how can you make it more conducive for them to move these candidates through the pipeline quicker? And also, kind of prioritize the internals. I feel like a lot of times they won't, they know that they have this pile of internal candidates, but they'll move forward with, to your point, Norman, earlier, an external candidate, because it's like, I don't know, maybe easier. They're already in the process with the recruiter, and maybe that's what it is. Internally, a lot of times it's the hiring manager kind of handling the process, whereas externally there's a recruiter there to help.
Yeah. And
Candace,
it's a
to your
clear path.
point, this is where it's interesting, is that maybe we flipped it the wrong way, in that we're giving employees the sense of, hey, these are things you're a great match for, but why would we why couldn't we also do it the
Mhm.
other way, where if I have a job description and as soon as I upload the job description, the manager's like, internally, these are 7 candidates that you can reach out to today to talk to them, right? Like it's, or even the recruiter or somebody, like
Yes.
someone on the
Right.
hiring side should also get that same list of people so that
Yeah.
they can proactively reach out. Because this is the other part as well, is that
Mhm.
reactively, the thing you have to always worry, but this is where it's always like the balance. You have to worry because if the person is looking for a new role, it's usually because one, they're getting signals internally like it's not working out. I want to try something different. I'm ready to go. So there is a bias where you sit there and go like that might not be the right person I want to talk to because maybe why do they want to leave? Like that was like the question that might come up in mind when you're looking at a hiring manager. But then if you were being proactive from a hiring manager perspective, saying like, hey, a recruiter came to me and said, we found 5 really good internal candidates for you to talk to. And then it also will help you, one, as a hiring manager, refine your job
Mhm.
description to know what your what are your kind of what are your
Yep.
non-negotiables versus things that you're okay with. And then you might find someone great internally, which is a great story for the company,
Mhm.
but that's where you've got to push for it. It's a company decision. It's not an individual decision. It's not a manager decision. It's not anything else. And that will allow you to actually build
Mhm.
this amazing mobility play, like in terms of what it is. There've been companies I've been a part of where they've tried, they call them gigs, right? So there's like short-term assignments where they try to do this and get exactly, like, they do that, but then the problem with
Stretch
those
assignments.
assignments, while
Yeah,
it's great for exposure, it's like an internship. When it's done, it's done. Like, you can't move into that team, and so the whole question becomes, that doesn't help me with short-term assignments.
yeah,
But if you were able to say, you know
Yeah.
what? Like, this is
Yeah.
actually one of the things I used to always talk to people about with, like, around product management. There's tons of people that really want to get into product management. They're like, I don't have tech experience. I don't have anything else. I'm like, listen, if you have these core things about you're curious about people, you have empathy, and you want to go push forward and trying to solve that problem, you probably have the basics of being a great product manager. What you want to do is you just need someone to give you that chance and then train you up
Mhm.
along the way. And so imagine if I could
Yep.
identify those core set of skills and say, through AI and say, hey, this person's really great at empathy. They really can
Yeah.
understand customer problems. They really understand, metrics and understanding what, UI design as an example. Like, I don't know, you can figure that stuff out. But you do that. And then you sit there and go, oh, wait, for
Mhm.
this junior level role, as opposed to going exterior, I might well go internal and bring that person in. If that person was highlighted, I'd know. But then honestly, if that person was a customer support agent and they applied blindly to my role internally, I would probably not even have looked at them because I'd be like, I don't even know what skills they have. Like, why would they apply?
I wouldn't have picked him.
And so it's really
Yep.
about that skills matrix versus
Yep.
the resume is really
Mhm.
what it's turned into, because we care more about what you can do versus what you've done in the past.
It's also very relationship based, I feel like. It's just having that knowledge up front versus what's on paper, which, by the way, Melissa, we were talking earlier about, how people are taking the job description. And I know this is like, yeah, switching a little bit, but they basically take the job description text and input it into their resume to get it through the AI, like, ATS. And so they'll
What? They do. I'm just kidding.
in clear. Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
No, I did not do that. I have never done that. But I'm just saying, if you watch any TikTok in the world, that's what they tell you to
Yes.
do. Yeah, yeah.
But then also, I will say from my own experience, interviewing and trying to use AI, like whether it's a script to answer any of the questions you think might come up, or just basing it off of the job description they had posted. It sounds very robotic. It's just not a natural delivery. And I ended up coming into the role that I'm in now with no AI support. It
Yeah.
was all relationship based.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I would
that's
say
something
both
to
of the
be
roles
said.
I landed, I just used whatever resume I had. But I had customized my resume about what 700,000 times, right? For all
Yeah.
these other roles, and it was so hard because I would not get selected, or I would get selected, and there was like no pattern to it. So, but it's funny, Candace, because I feel the same way. I didn't even prep for the two jobs that I landed. I did not prep. I just was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going into this and I'm just going to be me. And
You
then
know?
bam.
There you go.
Yeah. I think
It's
it's just
crazy
like that
when you see it.
over reliance on AI.
Definitely. Like, there's a lot of people that have now
100%.
like gone to the extreme, right? Where they are either
Yes.
running their resume through AI all the time, changing it for everybody, like writing cover letters and doing everything else, which is it's taking.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what they're doing is you're just playing the game, right? Because at the end of the day, the thing that everyone's realized is the
Yeah.
ATS is now become the gatekeeper. So the recruiters are not looking at your resume anymore, right? For the most part, there's very few
Yes.
organizations where every
Yep.
resume is being
Nope.
looked at by a recruiter, because honestly, they get so many. Like I remember when I was looking at systems for TA, and the job gets posted, and then within an hour there are like 2,000 resumes for that job, right? So how is a recruiter going to have to go through that all the time? So they're going to need some level of help filtering through. And so that's where it's helpful for them on the AI side to help really like eliminate really honestly people that definitely don't fit, and then there's like a match and you figure it out. But on the other side, as a candidate, that's what you're trying to do, is you're really just trying to play with it to say like, how do I use the words in the right way so that I get higher matched, so that when someone comes to my resume, they sit there and like, you're a better match. Let's put you in a list of people to talk with. So there's all that stuff that's happening. I mean, there's all these little tips and tricks, but the problem is, and I was telling Candace earlier, like this is the thing, right? It's like, yeah, if I took all the hot keywords and put it into my resume and made it white text so you couldn't see it visually, but it would show up on my resume, could that work? Could
Oh,
it could work,
I've
but
definitely
I
heard
think
of
the issue
doing that.
now is
I've
that
heard people do
there
that. Yeah.
are tons of ways that companies are realizing that people are trying to do that. So then they go out and they say, okay, well, we'll write new rules or we'll do something different. Or so it's like a whack-a-mole situation where it's never going to be a thing that's going to be 100% foolproof. And the worst part about it is being caught. Like, oh, well, that's even worse, right? Like it's not going to work out for you there.
But I feel like, so, I mean, just coming in from an internal large organization, I mean, the TA is amazing. Usually they have a pipeline of 15 people already. So by the time the job is posted, it's usually like just because they have Workday and they have to post it because Workday automatically pushes it out there. And so it's like you're basically just dumping your resume into the black abyss, and you'll never hear from anybody. And I've given so many people feedback. They reach out to me. They're like, oh, who do you know here on this? And I'm like, you have to network, I think is, or if you're applying for a role and it's a smaller company, then most likely that is actually being recruited on. If it is a larger company, most likely they already have a pipeline and they're not even looking at those resumes. I'm not saying every role, because if a hiring manager posts it and says like, please apply, then I would say, please apply to that one. But I don't know. What do you think, Candace? Like, have you seen that as well? Where
I mean, I'm just gonna say that this role was relationship based. I got it through a friend. So yeah, it's very real. I think you can apply automation as much as possible to help streamline your process, and as we were discussing earlier, collect data and insights and trends analysis. But when it comes to actual relationships, just as much as I don't personally think AI will ever replace a human, I don't think it'll ever replace relationships.
It's about trusting people to do the job, right? And so that's what really, because there are many, many well-qualified people everywhere, and it's more just about, honestly, it is about that human connection. Do I feel like we jive together? Do I feel like I can work with you? Do I feel like you're competent enough to do the job? So there's all that stuff that's happening right now, which is you can't replace with AI, but at the same time, it is something where, it is every little thing to get your foot in the door. Because this is where the hard part is with all the layoffs happening and everything else. It's like, as opposed to you being the, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, you're now 1 in 200, 1 in 2,000, right? And so this is where it gets a lot harder to have that ability to network and figure this out. But that's why you've got to really be mindful about, how do you want to network? How do you want to come across? Sometimes it's more than just networking. Sometimes it's just like being active. It's like posting, like Melissa, you're posting stuff and like sharing your thoughts, because
posting,
exactly, because
we started a podcast. Wait, I have to like give a shout out to TA though, the unsung heroes of the world, because I think you touched on it, Norman. TA is inundated with a million applicants, plus like all these ATS are trying to scrub data and push it to them, and it's like, I think when you look at AI, it should be, how do I enable my teams to do more human work and less automated work, right? Like, so while it's great to have all this functionality, sometimes that noise just makes it harder for them to do their jobs. And like, now we have all these bots applying for people. So no matter what, they're always going to get 1,000 to 1,500 applicants for every single role. It's like, again, now how do we peel that back and give TA more time to actually have these conversations, network, really work with the hiring manager to identify the right, recipe for the role versus just looking at the JD.
It's tough. It is a tough tough conversation because especially since like everyone's resume looks the same at this point, right? Like you run it through AI, they're going to give you the exact same resume. So now you're looking at 20 or 30 of
Yes,
the exact same resumes, right? So this is where you're getting into this question about by using AI on one end, you're causing a lot of almost extra work on the other. And then it's going to cause you to basically just to put your hands up and say, you know what, I'm just going to go with the simplest way to pick people for these roles. It's either going to be through network. Someone's going to recommend it because it's like the hiring managers are going after them and actually recruiting them themselves, or it's going to be some other way. But it's like information paralysis. It's actually, it happens a lot on the consumer side. Like you actually think of it this way. It's more like when you used to shop for flights, it was great, except when they gave you too many options. You're like, I don't know which flight I want to fly. I just want to go somewhere. I don't really care, right? It's the same idea now you're running into from a TA perspective. It's like, I don't know, there's so many resumes. I can throw a dart at a dartboard and pick out like 5 candidates that probably fit exactly what I need. So it's like, how do I make that decision? And that's where AI will help. So the thing with with TA is that they have so many things going on. They have so many things coming in their way, right? They have millions of resumes coming in. So it becomes information overload. It's like, if you think of it like shopping now, you have so many things to pick. Like I have 5 different versions of something where I just want to be able to, wipe my face with a towel. And so that's what's really was happening with TA is that they just have too many things they have to go after, which AI should help, but it's not helping right now. And then now you have to really think about how do we use AI to make it better, smarter decisions around that. And that's really the big cusp of how we use AI, both internally and externally.
So I have a quick question before we wrap up. Is it the CRM? Like, what is the best answer to that? And like, what has been utilized up to this point? Just if you can give a quick overview. I know that we're limited on time, but
yeah, I don't know what's worked out really well. That's the thing is I don't think there has been anything that worked out really well. The things I've seen have been, ATSs do a great job of what ATSs do, but they don't bring in anything internally. So maybe it's going to be an ATS that brings in internal information to then help that out. But right now there isn't anything like a CRM maybe, but it doesn't quite have the same level of ability to understand really truly like the profile of a candidate. And so maybe it's something that will need to be built. I don't know, but it's just not something that doesn't exist today.
Should we build it?
Together.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 of us are here. What else are we doing?
There's a lot of really interesting ways to go do that. So it's like one of those things where like, yeah, you could actually do something that really interesting here, but it is something to consider, right? Like it's just something there.
Right.
Intelligence layer 2.0 coming out soon. No, just kidding.
Internal mobility with AI. Well, Norman, it's been so great talking with you today, and we really appreciate your time. And there's a lot of insights here. And, Melissa, thank you so much for your time as well. And we are there, though, and I know that, we all should probably get back to our evenings here. So any last-minute thoughts or questions, Melissa?
Norman, it was awesome having you. Having seen you in action, I just feel like you bring such a great, you bring such great experience, but I think the practicality of effectiveness and being able to centralize things and come up with that groundwork so everyone can plug and play, I think that's so important. And as people are using and dabbling with AI, it's like, again, how do you bring everyone together to kind of come up with that, what this should look like, rinse, repeat for every org versus being so dispersed. And I think you touched on that a lot today of like how you bring those people together. So just want to say thank you for that, because I think that's like the biggest nugget I'm taking away is just continuing to bring everyone in. And Candace, as always, it was amazing with you tonight. And I'm excited for this episode to launch and many more. So thank you.
Thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode of AI Builds America. If this conversation sparked something in you, share it. Someone in your network needs to hear it. Subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you next time. Keep building.